All right, everybody. What's up? Welcome to the Alex Olinger podcast. This is the last one of the year. This is the last Alex Olinger podcast of the year of 2024. And I'd like to give a shout out to the people that, the people that listen to me this year. I'd like to give a shout out to the two people that listen to me, and that's myself included. And apparently, according to the YouTube statistics, one other person that listened to me at varying times. I don't know who they were. I don't know what their name is. It's probably one of my friends or somebody who's talking shit to me in their head while they listen to it. Just going, you know what? I really could have done a better job of this myself, and I think this guy really is a loser for attempting to follow his dreams and to get better at stand-up comedy. How old is this guy? Too old, probably. Too old to be doing this by himself in his house. That's what he is. He's an old piece of shit, this guy. That's what he is. He just sits by himself with the cat and he podcasts to nobody. I'd like to give a shout out to that person that listened to me. The one negative hater who listened to me this year. Shout out to you. You are my driving force to keep doing this. Shout out to Maddie Weiner for not being a hater but being the only person who's commented on one of my videos, who happens to be one of the best comics working in the country right now. That's great. Thank you, Maddie Weiner, for commenting on two of my videos, one of them being my birthday, or the podcast I released right after my birthday. Thank you for doing that. I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. You know, shout out to her. It's weird to have a podcast with 7 views per episode and have one of the best comics in the country commenting on it. You'd think maybe it's either a decent podcast or it just lacks promotion. But that's a weird thing to see. Imagine seeing a 7-view YouTube video of a kid doing like half of a kickflip in his driveway and Bob Dylan underneath is like happy birthday. That'd be weird, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that be pretty? I think that would be pretty weird if you saw that, because that's kind of what is going on with Maddie. People will come to watch my podcast in the future just to see what Maddie Weiner commented on it, to get some insight into her comedic genius and brain. And I'm happy to do that for Maddie. That's what I am. I'm happy to do that for her and to provide her with a little bit of a historical time capsule so people can just screenshot it or clip it or mute it, whatever. I'm happy to do that for her. Shout out to Maddie Weiner. Also, shout out to the only other comment I've gotten, which was on my first episode, and some random person just commented alrighty, and that was it. All lowercase. Didn't even punctuate, didn't even write a sentence, didn't do any of that. Just commented alrighty. Shout out to them. That's really something, and I'm glad you've made it and helped me out in the algorithm. And speaking of Bob Dylan, shout out to Timothy Chalamet. Huh? Can we clap it up for Timothy? Give it up for Timothy Chalamet. I want you to, if you're, whatever you're doing right now, start clapping. If you're by yourself in your car, start applauding. If you're driving, please let go of the wheel. Start applauding. Give it up for Timothy Chalamet, man. I really, in all seriousness, I watched him in the Bob Dylan movie, and he did a job. He did a job. He did a job that I think it was decent. I don't really know. They kind of gave him an impossible task, which is to sort of act like one of the most enigmatic. Is that how you pronounce that? Enigmatic And that's the word, listen, enigmatic is the word that I thought of, and it's what I'm sticking with, even if I don't know how to pronounce it properly. I know what it means. One of the most enigmatic, mysterious, and nasally figures in music history, they gave him that job to be a biopic, to do, shit. He did a movie, it's called a biopic. His job was to star in a biopic of the life of Bob Dylan. Well, a section of his life, right? It was only like 5 years in the movie, and he did a pretty good job. And it's a tough job to play one of the most distinguished, recognizable artists, maybe in all of history. One of them, I'd say. You know, it's tough. They keep giving Timothy these roles, and they keep shitting on Timothy for it. You're going to be Bob Dylan, okay? And then you're also going to be Willy Wonka, which, two clownish sort of figures that you'd think would be maybe a little bit dirtier or scarier or less, pretty in the face than Timothy Chalamet. I mean, that's what you'd think, isn't it? That's what I'd think. I mean, it's like this, it's a weird thing because every time I watch basically these movies now, especially like these biopics, it seems like everybody in the movies has to be like really attractive. But that wasn't kind of the case for Bob Dylan's time. You know, him and Joan Baez, they look kind of weird. They look kind of sick. Bob was smoking a lot of cigarettes, and he's this folk guy hanging out with beatniks down in the East Village before it was the East Village of today, and all clean and gentrified. You know, they were kind of like gutter, sewer rat, kind of gross people, but they weren't like weird or disgusting, or they weren't necessarily bad people in that right. They were just, they were folk artists. They were hipsters and beatniks and writers and poets, and they had a little bit of grit to them. You know, they smoked cigarettes and they had like yellow teeth. Joan Baez she was pretty, but was she the chick in the movie? I think not. How many people are the chick in the movie? The chick in the movie was, dude, she was a sexy lady. She had a voice like an angel. Maybe that's why they had to pick her, because she could also sing, because I heard they did the music live, which was an accomplishment, Well, but then what I'm saying is how can you really match the energy of that time, and how can you really put a guy like Bob Dylan really down into a movie and on film? How can you recreate it when he's a one-of-a-kind soul and artist in American history? I don't know if you really can. And they just keep like doing this to Timothy, man. They keep giving him ridiculous characters to play that have a very critical fan base. I mean, Bob Dylan, the fan base is full of what I would imagine pretentious hipsters. Why would I imagine that? Because I'm one of them, And I was kind of perturbed by the movie. I'm not scared to admit it. It did kind of upset me when I first saw it. And then you have Willy Wonka, whose fan base is either children or Oompa Loompas. Maybe. I don't know. But we give them, you kind of damned if you do, damned if you don't situation with poor Timothy here. Because you give him these characters. The kid can obviously act, but two of the most volatile roles to play. Two, like I said, clownish people that kind of make Timothy look a little bit ridiculous. And the fact that he didn't look ridiculous throughout the whole movie, trying to imitate Bob, was kind of an accomplishment, And I didn't see the Willy Wonka thing, but I imagine he did all right. And I would imagine Willy Wonka is sort of like the Bob Dylan of chocolates, the Salvador Dali of candy. You know what I mean? He's like the Pablo Picasso of like lollipops or something. He's a great artist of our time. He's sort of like an enigmatic figure that lives in a castle. He's eccentric. He killed children. You know, that's something an artist might do if you leave him alone too long with a bunch of orange slaves. He murdered children by giving them candy and putting them through weird tests of will and morals and fortitude, which, in retrospect, a person with a fully developed brain, you know, that'd probably be a test for them. You shouldn't give that kind of a test to a child. As a child, a 7-year-old doesn't really have like a fully formed cerebral cortex. So to like put them to death for kind of being a jerk or cranky or greedy is a little over the top. Willy Wonka. That's kind of why we have juvenile detention, and Willy Wonka didn't see that. Or maybe the British just don't give a fuck about that, and Willy Wonka is just a product of a society. You know, you forget sometimes, and this is my ignorant, I forget that Willy Wonka is British, and I think he is America. You know, like because I guess we have a lot of foodborne illnesses. What the fuck am I talking about? This is, you know, I wanted it to be the last podcast of the year. I didn't want to be the same guy that I was. I really wanted to slam dunk it on this one. But I don't know if that's really what's going to happen. Yeah, hopefully later on someone can look at this and just be like, wow, you know, he's really come a long way. But that's like kind of the only hope for these things. But anyways, the Willy Wonka thing is he's British. Sometimes you forget. You think he's American because Willy Wonka is an American figure. Clearly, he is. Maybe an American wrote the movie. No, it's a book. Isn't it like a Ronald Dahl book? It's based on that or something. It's a fucking movie that you'd think an American would write because he is kind of like the ultimate corporate evil guy that's lost in his own weird world and has a class of small midget slaves working for him that are not the color white. They are not Caucasian. Right? And that's an American thing. Or maybe that guy is a British ideal passed down to America. I don't know. But Willy Wonka is the Pablo Picasso of diabetes, and he killed children. He killed at least 8 children in that movie, and that was not okay. And that's, you know, I'm not sure how he got from Timothy Chalamet to this. But what I'm saying is they made Timothy Chalamet play him, and then everybody goes back and shits on Timothy Chalamet for goofy roles. And it's like the guy needs a job, okay? What are you going to do? You're going to take, I guess you take the roles that you're given, and that's what you do. Do you know what I mean? What else can you really do except in the day and age, in a day and in an age, I'm really chunking some of my sentences here. Look, it'll be different. Listen, to the viewers, to the people watching, this will be different next year. I will slowly get better at this. Maybe, Alex, you know what you should do, Alex? Maybe you should practice more at this, you dummy, instead of just trying it once every 2 weeks and then getting mad that you can't do it. Maybe that would be a good strategy. Do you think Willy Wonka didn't practice Hershey's chocolate? You didn't think he practiced his jawbreaker formula? Do you think he didn't practice killing other kids maybe the year before? Maybe he didn't. But you, Alex, man, you got to practice podcasting more. For what? For what reason? Because it's the only way in comedy to truly make a paycheck without being completely famous or nepotism. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? All right. The voice gets scratchy. This one's what what other podcast could we end the year on if not this chaotic jumble of shit? This is the Alex Olinger podcast after all, and it's gonna have a lot of me in it, man. I don't know, dude. I watched the Timothy movie. It left me with this weird feeling. I liked it at the same time that I didn't, and I kind of had like a moment there where I was sitting in the theater and I kind of thought to myself, like, maybe I don't actually dislike this movie. Maybe I just dislike the fact that Timothy Chalamet gets to dress up like Bob Dylan and get paid for it, and I don't. And then I realized maybe I'm just mad that I'm not Timothy Chalamet. And sure, yeah, I think possibly I am. Sitting there eating over buttery popcorn on the other end of that experience. Maybe I'm just mad. Maybe that's what I'm mad about. Maybe it wasn't a terrible movie, you know? Maybe I'm just a sad hater, a sad, pretentious hater. Maybe that's what I am. I don't know. But it was like decently filmed. It's weird. Again, it's weird to take a completely mysterious figure like Bob Dylan who wasn't filmed that much except when he was on stage and be like, no, he really nailed the guy. You know, we don't have like any footage of Bob. I mean, you got like a couple interviews where he was like a douche to the interview guy, but he wasn't really on footage like that except for when he was on stage, you know? So maybe that's why they had so much time on stage in the movie. That's what it kind of felt like. It kind of felt like this like concert film that was sort of just being, you know, I don't know, like the movie was made just to show him on stage. That was kind of the only conflict in the movie was him on stage. You know, and it wasn't even like necessarily conflict. That's just like the only events that would happen. Other than that, he was just making out with women and they were like upset with him that he wasn't paying attention to them instead of writing songs. Which I'm not like here to say that that didn't happen, but also like I don't know, man. Maybe the female character is like Joan Baez since she's such a great artist should have more than like one dimension to her, which seems to be like whiny girl that is mad Bob Dylan won't fuck her anymore. I mean, that's really the only thing. She had a really good voice, the actress, but they didn't really write much dialogue for her that didn't involve her talking about Bob directly. She would just kind of, I guess, fuck him and then be like kind of mad at him later. That's all we saw from her. I mean, the other girl, too, she would just like half of the movie, she was kind of just crying or mad at him. It's like, do these women not have any other hobbies? Is that what his life was like? Was that what it felt like to be Bob Dylan? You just have sex with a bunch of women and then they're just mad at you after that? And you're just a Jewish elf that just bounces around from city to city and doesn't give a shit. Is that what it was like? I don't know, man. Who could see into the mind and the heart of Dylan? Timothy Chalamet, could he? What's upsetting me about reading about this online is it seems like a lot of people just like Timothy Chalamet. And in the same way that I like Bob Dylan, where people are like, Bob Dylan cannot sing. And I'm like, yeah, but it's more like a charisma thing, you know? It's more like a personality trait that he's trying to convey, a sort of spirit of folk that he's trying to get across, more so, more so than to have the most perfect voice. I guess maybe that's how chicks online feel about Timothy. It doesn't matter that he doesn't sound exactly like Bob Dylan. He tried his best. That's a personality he's trying to convey. Really. All right. I'm not even focused right now. The cat came over and is trying to sit in my lap while I'm doing this. Thanks. Thank you, George. Thank you, George, for doing that. Sitting on me while I'm trying to podcast. What else is going on, man? It's the end of the new year, so I don't know much about resolutions. I've never really followed through with one in my life. But I think I might like some this year. You know, I'd like to be more organized. I got to organize my act for sure. You know, become a professional comic. I got some gigs coming up in Houston and some South by Southwest stuff coming up that I kind of need to be on point for. You know, I would like to do that a lot. Like to maybe, you know, we got to cut back on the booze. Can't just be a booze hound. I don't think I'm successful enough really right now to be like a booze guy. That's, you know, people kind of admire booze people like Charles Bukowski after they get famous. But if you're not famous, it's kind of just, you're kind of just drinking too much, you know? Ooh. You know what just happened? You don't because you're not in the room. The cat just laid down, snuggled up on my feet. I'd say that's a win tonight. Yep. I'd say that's a good feeling, man, when the cat comes over and lays with you, especially when you have one of those weird shy cats that doesn't want to like have much interaction. When it lays with you, you're doing something right. You know, they say you have good energy. Either that or you're like dying of cancer. I heard that cats will lay with people who are dying of cancer. You know, so when your cat lays with you at your house, just imagine maybe that's the day you started to die of cancer. All right. All right, let's reel it in, man. I think a good New Year's resolution for me would be to like try to focus more while podcasting. Try to really like say something poignant and observational so that people pay attention. Yeah, okay, here's the thing with the Dylan movie. Let's go back to it. It just didn't, it was cool and it sucked me in and it was an interesting movie. But I just didn't get the sense that it was a Bob Dylan movie. It felt like a Timothy Chalamet film where he was dressed up like Bob Dylan. And he did a good job. It was a decent movie. It was filmed well. There was only one major like continuity error that I saw, but it like sucked me in and it kind of painted the time pretty well, but it's just he's too like pretty to be that guy on screen. I don't know. It's something about like the Gen Z, like late millennial actors. They're all just so like good looking and they don't have any character flaws physically about them really. They all just seem, and maybe it's how movies are filmed now, like the quality of the cameras, but everything seems like surreal and almost more perfect than actual reality. And that's not, I don't think that's what Dylan's music is about, and I don't think it's what those people at the time valued. I think they'd actually like say the opposite, make it like a homegrown, gritty film, make it have that look instead of cleaning it up and scrubbing away all the dirt in the character that makes these people in their situation human, and what really makes Bob Dylan cool is how homegrown and gritty and dirty and kind of folk-ish and, you know, like kind of off the beaten path, kind of mysterious and like basement dwelling, other sort of smoky hipster jazz bar type feeling guy that he was at the time. You know, that's what made him cool. And now, you know, you took it and you scrubbed all that out of it. Really, I think it'd be Scorsese would probably never do this, but I feel like he would probably be the best one to direct it. I mean, he made actually Scorsese made the best two Bob Dylan documentaries in my opinion. And it's the I don't know if it's called Bringing It All Back Home. I don't know what it's fucking called. The second one is called Rolling Thunder Review. And the first one covers him from the start into the 60s. And then the second one is about him in the 70s. And I think those are the two. If you really want to like get an insight into Dylan and what he was like and what was really going on, then you watch those films because he pieces it together really, really well. And he kind of shows everything that he was actually going through in the times. In the interviews, he has a lot of interviews with him where Bob Dylan was actually genuine with him instead of sort of playing this character or fucking with him like he would do with the press a lot. He kind of like fuck with the press. And I don't know. The Scorsese films just capture it more so than this movie did. But it's not to say that it was a bad movie. It just it felt like a little childish in a way. Like a little how do I fucking explain it? Like it's not even corporate. It's like childish. It's kind of really clean, really youthful, almost like naive in the way that it was portrayed. They had like comic relief in it. I don't know. Like almost like jump out moments where people were being funny. There's two like comedic jump scares in it, which just, I don't know. It just felt kind of weird and out of place. What would I give it? It doesn't matter though. What star rating would I give it? I'm not even going to say. That's just the thing that I noticed. It just felt like so much of what today is, where it's just not real, I guess. I guess it is real. Timothy Chalamet is a real person. But you go to the mall and it's false, it's artificial in there. Everything's really cleaned up. Everything's way too clean. Everything seems to lack like a certain humanity. Fucking A. I'm going to have to honestly re-listen to this one and see if I want to put this one out. I really have only talked about the Bob Dylan movie and Willy Wonka so far on the last podcast of this year. But you know what? Like, who the fuck? Nobody cares about years anymore. That's another thing. Does anybody really give a shit about what year it is? Isn't it all just jumbled together in everybody's heads? Isn't everybody just slowly burning out from cell phone overusage and shitty food, overstimulation, 3,000 advertisements a day? And that's just on your way to work, traffic on the way there, traffic on the way back. Does anybody really give a fuck what year it is at this point? 2025, 2024, 2023, I'm still fucked in the ass, aren't I? The man has still fucked me in my ass. I wish these podcasts were brilliant for you guys. I wish they were really refined and hilarious and well done. And I guess that depends on who you ask, right? The beauty is in the eye of the beholder. But what I'm holding over here is saying that maybe it's not that. Why do you gotta shit on yourself, man? Why can't you have a good time? Fuck. All right. I might have to record. There might just not be a last podcast of the year. There might not be. It might not happen. It might not happen for you, and it might not happen for me. There might not be a podcast ever again from this guy. Oh, and I'm glad. You know what? I'm glad I said that at the end of the episode because there's probably going to be some jack off commenting underneath going, that would be a good thing, probably. That might be the funniest thing you could do, is not have a podcast. There's so many comments under Instagram Reels of people stand-up acts that I see where some douche is just like, when does the comedy start? So is this the comedy video? When does it start? First off, it's already been happening. You can hear the laughs. Just because you didn't find it funny, sir, doesn't mean it's not comedy. Also, second, you're criticizing a comedian online, and you're not a comedian. You never tried to do it. Also, that joke is hack. It's hack now. It's been commented one too many times. So who do you think you are, really? Ted from Iowa, or whatever whoever you are, whatever your name is. Ted with the same fucking picture as everybody else. Somewhere scenic, like a hike or the beach. That's where you're at. You got black shades on. You're a white dude by your fucking self. You know, that's usually... There's no ladies with you, is there, Ted? There's no ladies. It's just you alone at your shitty job, on your shitty lunch break, eating a shitty peanut butter and jelly. Just peanut butter, jelly, and shit. Just shitty. That's what it is. And you're commenting on somebody else's hard-working video. When does the comedy start? That's all it is, Ted. It's just you and your insecurities. And while you're sitting out there, Ted, tonight, by yourself, watching the ball drop in between YouTube ads in your apartment, not even a cat to your name, not even a goldfish is your friend. You're just going to find a video or find this goddamn podcast, and on the last one of the year, you're going to say, right at the bottom, it's the only comment that's left on the video, when does the comedy start? That's going to be you, Ted. And that's going to be me on the other end, reading it and just thinking to myself, dude, I don't fucking know. All right, that's been the last Alex Olinger podcast of the year. Thank you very much, everybody, if you were listening. Have a happy new year, and take it easy, why don't you?